NBA legends share their issues with today's NBA. The NBA is more popular, richer, and flashier than ever. But the legends who built this league say the modern game is broken. Shaq calls it the death of the big man. Kobe said the softness makes me nauseous. Magic Johnson insists rivalries have disappeared. And Dr. J says today's stars feel entitled instead of honored. Have we replaced passion with popularity, defense with dunks, respect with ego? Tonight, the icons who shaped basketball expose the uncomfortable truth about today's NBA. Watch closely, comment your stance, and hit subscribe because Legends of Black Excellence is just getting started. Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's reaction to the shocking trade of Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks to the Los Angeles Lakers sent ripples through the entire basketball world. When the deal was announced, Doncic traded mid-season for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a single first-round pick. Durant took to social media posting his disbelief. Insane. It's crazy. Damn, would have never thought Luka D gets traded at this age. His words captured what many players felt but rarely said out loud. If Luka could be moved, anybody could. The league he spent 15 years conquering had once again proven its ruthless nature. For Durant, a two-time NBA champion and Olympic gold medalist, the trade wasn't just about a star changing uniforms, it was a reality check. If he can get traded, then anybody's up for grabs, he reflected, emphasizing that no amount of loyalty, talent, or stardom protects a player from the business side of basketball. The transaction revealed how the NBA, despite its glitz and global fame, is fundamentally a corporate ecosystem driven by financial calculations, not sentiment. Durant's comment resonated deeply because he's been there before twice. From Oklahoma City to Golden State, then Brooklyn to Phoenix, he knows firsthand how a franchise can shift overnight when money and marketing dictate the next move. Durant's candid remarks exposed the emotional cost behind the league's glossy image. Players, no matter how elite, live under constant uncertainty, valued today, tradable tomorrow. For younger stars watching the Luka trade unfold, the message was sobering: stardom doesn't guarantee security. This wasn't betrayal. It was business. As Durant put it bluntly, there's a lot of money involved, a lot of business involved, too. His words stripped away the romanticism surrounding modern basketball, revealing a world where loyalty means little and contracts mean everything. The Luka deal marked more than a blockbuster trade. It symbolized the NBA's evolution into a billion-dollar marketplace where players are assets and brand power rules. For Durant, it was proof that the game he loves has become a high-stakes transaction system. Yet his honesty struck a chord with fans who missed the purity of competition over corporate calculation. In the end, Durant's reflection wasn't bitterness, it was clarity. In today's NBA, talent sells tickets, but business makes decisions. Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal's voice carries the weight of an era when the paint was a battlefield and strength was currency. Watching today's NBA, the Hall of Famer often shakes his head. To him, the league has shifted away from physicality, replacing bruising battles under the rim with elegant jumpers and three-point theatrics. In interviews, Shaq has confessed a bittersweet truth. He believes he helped cause the death of the big man. His dominance in the 1990s forced teams to adapt, spacing the floor and moving away from traditional post play. 2 decades later, he sees centers drifting beyond the arc, calling it cute, but not what I'd do. Back in his prime, Shaq was an unstoppable force, 7'1", 325 pounds, averaging 23.7 points and 10.9 rebounds across 19 seasons. He punished defenses with ferocity few could endure, but that kind of physicality has vanished. The NBA's rule changes designed to open space and promote offense also erased the intimidation factor that once defined inside play. Now, instead of elbow duels and hook shots, big men mimic guards launching threes and avoiding contact. For Shaq, this evolution reflects not progress, but dilution, a sport sanitized for highlight reels rather than heart. He often reminds fans that dominance used to come from power, not perimeter range. When I came into the league, he once said, centers fought for position, not space. The modern game's obsession with spacing analytics and small ball has made traditional post players obsolete. Even MVP-caliber bigs like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid rely on finesse more than force. Shaq respects their skill, but insists something essential has been lost, the fear factor that made opposing centers tremble. For O'Neal, basketball's soul lies in collisions, in sweat, in the weight of bodies crashing beneath the rim. Watching today's players float around the perimeter, he sees talent, but misses toughness. His lament isn't nostalgia, it's a warning. When physicality disappears, so does identity. The NBA may be faster and flashier, but in Shaq's eyes, it's forgotten the beauty of battle. Rick Barry. A Hall of Famer celebrated for his intelligence and intensity on the court, has become one of the loudest voices criticizing the direction of modern basketball. To Barry, today's NBA has sacrificed substance for spectacle. The veteran who once thrived on discipline and structure now sees a league dominated by isolation plays and empty showmanship. Too much one-on-one. He lamented describing the modern game as boring to watch. In his eyes, basketball was meant to be an orchestra of 5 players moving in rhythm, not a series of solo performances for the highlight reel. Barry's frustration goes beyond aesthetics. It's about fundamentals. The former Finals MVP built his career on teamwork, precision passing, and defensive intensity. Watching today's contests, he sees players drifting on defense, unwilling to communicate or rotate. Play team basketball pass-cut move and make the defense make decisions, he urged in a recent interview. For him, the joy of the sport lies in collective execution, not in one superstar dribbling out the shot clock. This shift from strategy to spectacle, Barry argues, has eroded the integrity of the game itself. He's equally outspoken about officiating, demanding referees enforce the rules by the book. Barry often points to traveling, carrying, and moving screens violations that have become routine but rarely penalized. Call the damn game according to the rule book, he insisted, convinced that stricter enforcement would restore discipline. Players would quickly adapt if the league prioritized fairness over flair. To him, consistent officiating is not merely a technical issue, it's a moral one, essential to preserving basketball's identity as a team sport, not a circus act. Barry's critique isn't bitterness, it's love. He sees what basketball once was, a contest of intellect, unselfishness, and grit, and worries those values are fading. In a world obsessed with analytics and viral moments, his message feels old-fashioned yet urgent. The NBA's future depends on rediscovering its soul. Commit yourself to defense, he pleads, and play unselfishly. The game he once mastered doesn't need more stars, it needs more teamwork. Kevin Garnett, one of the fiercest competitors in NBA history, never shied away from contact, confrontation, or challenge. To him, the league he entered as a teenager in the mid-1990s was a proving ground, a bully league where toughness decided survival. Man, for your first 3 years, it was a bully league, he recalled, describing a world filled with veterans who tested your courage before respecting your talent. Garnett's story of his first encounter with Karl Malone says it all. On his debut play, he sprinted down the court only to take a thunderous hit to the chest from Malone. "He just effed me right in the chest," said, "What's up, young fella?" Garnett froze for a second, realizing he had entered a man's game. That moment defined his mindset for the rest of his 21-year career. Garnett learned that in the old NBA there were no shortcuts, no safe zones, and certainly no load management. Every night was a war. Older players tried to punk you, fight you, or humble you. That crucible of pain and pride forged his relentless edge, something he believes modern players no longer experience. Today's NBA, in his eyes, is too protected, a sanitized version of what basketball used to be. Hand-checking is gone, flagrant fouls are overcalled, and referees whistle for the slightest contact. Garnett sees a league that values marketability over menace. When asked about Nikola Jokic, arguably the most dominant big man of the modern era, Garnett didn't question his skill, but he did question how his stats would translate in a rougher time. Back in the day, he wouldn't be putting up these numbers, he said bluntly. The MVP's methodical pace and finesse would have met elbow shoves and bodies banging under the rim. Garnett believes that while today's stars are technically brilliant, they are rarely tested by physical adversity. In his words, the old league made you grow up. The new one keeps you comfortable. For Garnett, the issue isn't nostalgia, it's authenticity. The NBA he knew demanded pain before praise. Now he sees players protected by rules and entourages detached from the raw edge that made the sport magnetic. To him, real basketball wasn't about space and analytics. It was about heart and hostility. His message is simple, but cutting skill may define talent, but struggle defines greatness. Ray Allen. Ray Allen. The man whose silky jumper once redefined clutch shooting now watches the modern NBA with mixed emotions. The two-time champion and 10-time All-Star helped usher in basketball's three-point revolution, yet he's increasingly critical of what it has become. There's a lack of appeal right now. Allen admitted, lamenting how the league's obsession with long-range shots has drained the game of variety and nuance. Once the three-pointer was a strategic weapon, a dagger reserved for key moments. Now it dominates every possession, with players hoisting 20 or 30 triples a night as if it were the only path to success. Allen understands better than anyone the beauty of spacing and rhythm, but he insists balance is what made basketball special. During his prime, he thrived on reading defenses, mixing drives, mid-range pull-ups, and perimeter daggers. Today's players, he argues, skip the artistry. The mid-range game is being lost, he said. Now you see guys pump fake, step sideways, and stay behind the three-point line. To him, this mechanical pattern robs the sport of creativity, forcing every scorer into the same blueprint. The result: less strategy, less emotion, and less joy in watching the craft unfold. His concerns go beyond nostalgia. As a youth coach, Allen sees the impact firsthand. He tells his players not to mimic what they see on TV. Don't settle for threes, he urges. Play hard. Learn from the NBA's do's and don'ts. He teaches the fundamentals footwork, shot selection, ball movement that are being forgotten in favor of analytics-driven play. In Allen's view, real basketball still lives in the in-between spaces, the fadeaway jumper, the quick cut to the rim, the pull-up just inside the arc. Those plays, he believes, separate good shooters from complete scorers. Ironically, the man who hit perhaps the most iconic three-pointer in NBA Finals history now warns against its overuse. Allen doesn't hate the modern game. He fears it's becoming predictable. His message to the next generation is one of balance, not rejection. The game is beautiful, he said, but only when you master all of it. To him, greatness lies not in repetition, but in range of skill, thought, and imagination. Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley, one of the toughest enforcers to ever step on an NBA court, has never been shy about calling out what he sees as the decline of the league's foundation. To him, today's players may have flashier handles and better skill training, but they lack the discipline and structure that once defined championship basketball. There's no foundation, no structure, so you get a lot of bad play, Oakley said in a recent interview. He believes many young stars are products of highlight culture, more interested in personal brands than in mastering the fundamentals that built legends. In his eyes, basketball is no longer a test of will, but a showcase of finesse without fire. Oakley's era was built on toughness, accountability, and respect. Playing beside Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing, he learned that effort mattered more than elegance. Today, however, he sees an NBA that prioritizes entertainment value over team identity. Guys now just do their skill level, he said, criticizing the lack of mental preparation and defensive intensity. Oakley insists that the absence of structure isn't the player's fault, it's management's. Coaches and executives, he argues, allow bad habits to thrive because they fear losing marketable stars. I don't blame the players, he said. I blame management for not holding guys accountable. The veteran forward also points to a cultural shift influenced by international basketball. While global talent has elevated the league's diversity and style, Oakley believes it's come at the expense of physicality. When the international players came in, the game changed. He explained. The European approach, built on spacing, finesse, and ball movement, helped make the NBA more global, but also softer. In his mind, the edge that once made American basketball unique, the confrontational, fearless energy of players like himself, has been replaced by a polite, passive rhythm. For Oakley, this transformation is bittersweet. He respects the evolution of skill, but mourns the loss of spirit. The NBA, he knew, was a battlefield where strength, pride, and heart were non-negotiable. Now he sees an industry of entertainers instead of competitors. His message cuts through nostalgia. It's a warning without structure and accountability. Talent alone won't sustain greatness. The league may be richer than ever, but its foundation, he says, has never been weaker. Alonzo Mourning. Alonzo Mourning, the relentless enforcer who embodied toughness in the 1990s, has long been a symbol of resilience. When he looks at today's NBA, what he sees troubles him deeply. In his words, modern players have become fragile. To Mourning, this isn't about physical weakness, it's about mentality. The Hall of Famer, who once played through kidney disease and countless injuries, believes the league's new generation struggles to handle criticism, accountability, and adversity. It's hard to say the things that need to be said to these players, he explained. They take offense to it. In an era where emotional comfort is prized, he feels the competitive fire that once forged champions has dimmed. Mourning's perspective comes from experience forged in fire. During his prime years with the Miami Heat, he was molded by legendary coach Pat Riley, a man infamous for pushing players to their absolute limits. Riley's practices were grueling, filled with conditioning drills and mental warfare designed to build character. He demanded accountability, discipline, and maximum effort. Mourning recalled, "You had to stay strong or they'd break you down." Under that leadership, Mourning became a 7-time All-Star and a Defensive Player of the Year achievements, born not from comfort, but confrontation. To him, greatness doesn't grow in safe spaces, it thrives under pressure. Comparing then to now, Mourning believes coaching philosophy has softened alongside the players. Coaches today are afraid to tell the truth, he said bluntly. The fear of upsetting egos, losing locker rooms, or being labeled too hard has, in his view, eroded the standards of professional excellence. Instead of demanding more, many coaches tiptoe around criticism, catering to stars who hold more power than the sideline generals themselves. This shift, Mourning argues, has created a culture where talent isn't matched by toughness, and winning isn't driven by willpower but by comfort zones. For Mourning, basketball has always been more than skill. It's about endurance, pride, and emotional strength. He doesn't dismiss the talent of today's athletes, but insists they lack the mental steel that once defined the game. The physicality back then was unreal, he said. You had to be strong or they'd break you. His message is simple yet sharp. If players can't be coached hard, they'll never play hard. In his eyes, the modern NBA may be faster and flashier, but without the grit Riley demanded, it's losing the very soul that made it great. B.J. Armstrong. B.J. Armstrong, a champion guard from the Chicago Bulls dynasty, has always viewed basketball as both science and art. But when he looks at today's NBA, he sees the art disappearing. There's no more creativity, no more imagination, Armstrong lamented, describing a league where analytics dictate every movement. Once the floor was a canvas for unpredictable brilliance, players improvising, reading defenses, and creating magic in real time. Now, he says, it feels mechanical. We have basically robots running up and down the court, he told the Hoop Genius podcast. Every possession looks the same: run to the corner, hunt for a three, or go for a layup. For Armstrong, it's not evolution, it's repetition. Having played alongside Michael Jordan and under Phil Jackson, Armstrong understands how strategy and instinct once coexisted. He recalls a time when guards like Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, and Gary Payton orchestrated games with intuition, not just numbers. In contrast, modern offenses built around data-driven efficiency have sacrificed creativity for predictability. Two-point shots are now considered bad shots even if you make them. Armstrong noted, pointing to how analytics undervalue mid-range skill. Teams chase high-percentage zones while ignoring the beauty of shot-making in difficult spots. He argues that this obsession with math has drained spontaneity from the sport, turning players into programmed performers instead of innovators. Armstrong's critique goes deeper than nostalgia. It's philosophical. He believes true basketball thrives on human expression, not algorithmic control. "When I go watch the game, everyone runs the same sets," he explained. "There's no experimentation, no one breaking the rhythm." In his eyes, the league has become an assembly line of athleticism, where individuality is restrained by systems designed to optimize efficiency. Even the game's tempo, once dictated by feel, is now governed by analytics departments and shooting charts. While numbers have improved scoring averages, Armstrong believes they've diminished the soul of competition. What he misses most is unpredictability, the surprise pass, the mid-air adjustment, the courage to do something unscripted. To Armstrong, that was basketball's poetry. Without it, every game feels identical, no matter the stars on the floor. His warning carries weight. When the pursuit of perfection replaces imagination, the sport risks becoming sterile. Let players think, let them create, he insists. That's where greatness is born. Paul George. Paul George, a modern all-star with old-school sensibilities, has never hesitated to critique what he feels is wrong with the game. On a recent episode of Podcast P, he vented his frustration about something that's become all too common in today's NBA, the traveling epidemic. "There's a lot of traveling that goes on and refs just don't call it," he said. Watching from the bench, George often finds himself muttering, "Damn, he traveled." His complaint reflects a growing sentiment among veterans who feel that referees have relaxed too much, allowing players to bend the rules in the name of entertainment. To George, this leniency distorts the integrity of the sport he's spent years perfecting. For George, calling travels isn't just about enforcing rules, it's about respecting the craft. The fundamentals of footwork and balance once drilled into young players are fading as highlight plays take priority. Today's stars often take multiple steps before dribbling or gather the ball mid-stride without consequence. George argues that this kind of negligence teaches bad habits, especially to young fans emulating their heroes. "We all adjust to what's called," he noted, implying that if referees enforced the rule book, players would quickly adapt. What frustrates him most is that the lack of accountability on small details leads to a bigger problem: inconsistency in how the game is played. His criticism didn't stop there. George also voiced disdain for the NBA's new All-Star format set to debut in 2025, which introduces 3 mini-games instead of one traditional showcase. "We already had a hard time with one game," he said, questioning the logic of expanding an event that's struggled to stay competitive. Once a prestigious honor filled with intensity and pride, the All-Star game has, in George's view, turned into a lifeless exhibition. Multiple short contests, he believes, will only dilute its meaning further and exhaust players who already endure a grueling regular season. Behind his words lies a deeper truth. George represents a generation caught between eras. He appreciates innovation but longs for discipline. He doesn't want the league to regress, only to reclaim balance between showmanship and structure. For him, calling travels and simplifying the All-Star game aren't complaints about nostalgia. They're calls to protect the spirit of competition that made basketball great in the first place. Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, the smiling assassin who defined the Showtime Lakers, sees today's NBA as polished but passionless. In his prime, rivalry fueled every breath he took, most notably against Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics. "I hated Larry," and every Celtic Magic once admitted, not out of personal spite but out of competitive fire. That emotion, he argues, made basketball unforgettable. Each game felt like war, every possession personal. But in the modern league, he sees camaraderie where there once was conflict. "They don't hate each other anymore," he said. To Magic, without animosity, there's no urgency, and without rivalry, there's no magic. Johnson believes this friendship-first culture has made the NBA softer and less gripping. Where once players fought to define legacies, today, they swap jerseys, post selfies, and join forces in super teams. The result, he claims, is a league that's more social than competitive. Television ratings, he points out, have reflected that shift, down nearly 15% in recent years, because fans no longer feel that deep emotional pull between warring franchises. For Magic, the best basketball wasn't about analytics or three-point charts. It was about the pride of beating your rival and protecting your team's name. That raw energy, he fears, has been replaced by friendliness. Beyond rivalries, Magic is also outspoken about the modern concept of load management, the practice of resting star players even when they're healthy. During his era, he says the idea was unthinkable. Players suited up for every game because fans paid to see them. After watching the Lakers drop in the standings in 2024 due to unnecessary rest nights, Johnson lashed out publicly. They have nobody but themselves to blame. For him, skipping games without injury isn't strategy, it's selfishness. It cheats supporters who spend their hard-earned money expecting to witness greatness, not empty benches. In Magic's world, basketball is a covenant between athletes and audiences, a bond built on effort, accountability, and pride. The modern game, in his eyes, risks breaking that promise. While he respects today's athleticism, he mourns what's been lost: rivalries that burned for decades, coaches who demanded perfection, and players who showed up no matter the circumstance. His message echoes across generations: talent may win applause, but passion wins loyalty. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, the outspoken Hall of Famer known for his honesty and humor, has become one of the sharpest critics of the modern NBA's load management culture. To Barkley, today's players enjoy more comfort, money, and protection than any generation before them, yet they play less. "We went out there with one leg broken, faces cheap shoes flying commercial," he said, recalling his grueling early years in the 1980s. Now these guys got private planes, hyperbaric chambers, and the best shoes ever made, and they're always hurt. For Barkley, this isn't evolution, it's entitlement. He believes the league has lost its toughness, its work ethic, and its gratitude. Barkley's frustration stems from what he sees as a betrayal of the game's spirit. When he played, there was an unspoken rule: if you could walk, you played. The NBA was a privilege, not a burden. Players fought through pain because fans filled arenas expecting their heroes to compete, not rest. Today, he says, stars sit out to manage fatigue, leaving paying supporters disappointed and disillusioned. Be appreciative. Play all the games, he urges. His words strike at the heart of a cultural shift. Basketball has become a brand business where personal longevity often outweighs public responsibility. Barkley argues that this mindset, while logical, drains the emotion from the sport. The irony, he notes, is that modern athletes have every advantage imaginable: chartered flights, advanced recovery science, personalized nutrition, but still miss more games than the warriors of his time. Back then, players like Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, and John Stockton routinely logged 82-game seasons without complaint. Now, even minor soreness leads to cautionary absences. Barkley sees this as proof that the league has become too protective and that the player's resilience has been replaced by convenience. It's not about being macho, he says. It's about showing up for the people who make your career possible. For Barkley, the issue isn't just nostalgia, it's accountability. The NBA's power has shifted from teams to individuals, and with that freedom comes responsibility. Fans, he insists, deserve effort, not excuses. We played for pride, he reflects. Now it's about preserving image. His call to action is simple but powerful: respect the privilege, honor the jersey, and never forget who built the league's foundation. Because to Barkley, the greatest ability will always be availability. Allan Houston, once the smooth shooting assassin of the New York Knicks, has become one of the few voices defending a dying craft, the mid-range jumper. Known for his precise form and elegant rhythm, Houston built a reputation as one of the deadliest scorers from 15 to 20 feet out. Yet, as he watches today's NBA unfold, he feels that art form has been erased. The game has turned its back on it, he said, lamenting how analytics and pace have replaced balance and shot diversity. In his era, the mid-range wasn't just a scoring zone, it was a battleground that separated the skilled from the streaky. Now it's nearly extinct. During his prime in the late 90s and early 2000s, Houston's mid-range precision was legendary. He shot over 45% for his career, often relying on pull-ups, curls, and quick-release jumpers from the elbows. Those shots required timing, patience, and hours of repetition qualities he fears are disappearing in favor of volume shooting from deep. Today's players go from layup to three-pointer, he observed. The middle has been forgotten. To Houston, this obsession with mathematical efficiency strips basketball of its unpredictability and artistic flair. The mid-range was once where greats like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant made their living. Now it's considered a bad shot, no matter how effective the shooter may be. Houston often points to Phil Jackson's famed triangle offense as a system that still honored the mid-range game. Designed to create spacing motion and balance, the triangle rewarded players who mastered positioning and shot selection. That offense gave you options the post, the corner, and the mid-zone, Houston explained. It valued skill, not just stats. Watching today's teams, he misses that sense of geometry and patience. In the rush to shoot threes, players have abandoned the craft of reading defenders and using the floor's full dimensions. For Houston, that shift has made the NBA more predictable, even if it's faster and higher scoring. Yet his tone isn't bitter, it's nostalgic. He still teaches young players to embrace all areas of the court, reminding them that the best offense isn't always the quickest, but the smartest. To him, a perfect pull-up jumper remains poetry in motion, something numbers can't quantify. Basketball isn't just math, he insists. It's rhythm, feel, and control. For Allan Houston, the mid-range isn't dead. It's just waiting for the right artist to bring it back to life. Tracy McGrady. Tracy McGrady, the seven-time All-Star and one of the most electrifying scorers of his era, has long been outspoken about the state of today's NBA. In his view, Stephen Curry's unanimous MVP in 2016, the first in league history, wasn't just a celebration of greatness, but also a symptom of decline. It just tells you how watered down the league is, McGrady said bluntly. For him, Curry's dominance was unquestionable, yet it also revealed how little competition remained across the board. During McGrady's prime, he faced a gauntlet of legends: Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan. Every team, he argued, had multiple superstars. Now he believes the NBA's depth of elite talent has evaporated. McGrady's criticism isn't aimed at individuals, but at a system that's diluted competitiveness. The league is top-heavy, he explained, meaning only a handful of franchises boast true contenders, while the rest hover in mediocrity. The balance of power, once spread across fierce rivalries and rival markets, has tilted toward a few super teams assembled through free agency and brand influence. For McGrady, that shift has eroded the sense of unpredictability that once made basketball thrilling. In his era, even lower-seeded teams were dangerous because they were filled with hungry veterans and rising stars fighting for respect. Today's structure, he believes, rewards popularity more than performance. He's also concerned about how this imbalance shapes younger players' mentalities. Instead of aspiring to challenge the best, many seek to join them. McGrady sees a league where friendship and business have replaced rivalry and pride. He contrasts it with the 2000s, when every night felt like a battle for dominance, not content creation. Back then, we competed to prove who was the best, he said. Now, everyone wants to play together. The result, he argues, is a lack of tension, intensity, and storytelling, the very ingredients that once made the NBA must-watch television. For McGrady, the issue isn't evolution, it's erosion. Skill levels have improved, but spirit has faded. He doesn't deny that stars like Curry, LeBron James, or Giannis Antetokounmpo are transcendent, but he insists their greatness shines brighter partly because the league surrounding them has dimmed. His message to modern basketball is both warning and challenge: depth creates greatness, Competition builds legends. Without it, even brilliance risks becoming routine. Julius Erving, Dr. J. Julius Erving, affectionately known as Dr. J, was the bridge between basketball's rough past and its glamorous future. To him, the modern NBA may be richer, faster, and flashier, but it has lost something far more important: humility. The Philadelphia 76ers legend often says today's players are softer, not because they lack talent, but because they've grown too comfortable. We felt honored, not privileged. Erving recalled describing an era when making it to the NBA was a sacred achievement, not an expectation. For his generation, the league was a dream built through sweat and sacrifice, not a lifestyle that came with sneakers, sponsors, and social media fame. Back in the 1970s and 80s, Erving's grace on the court was matched by his sense of purpose off it. Players traveled on commercial flights, stayed in modest hotels, and carried their own gear, yet they still brought relentless energy every night. "We didn't have the conveniences they have today," he said, "but it made us tougher." That struggle in his eyes shaped men as much as athletes. Today, the comfort of chartered planes, private trainers, and million-dollar recovery systems has created a generation of stars who, while physically gifted, lack the mental resilience that defined the old guard. For Erving, those luxuries have dulled the hunger that once fueled greatness. What troubles Dr. J most isn't the comfort itself, but the attitude it breeds. He's watched young players enter the league acting entitled, as if fame and wealth were guarantees instead of goals. The respect for the game and for the men who built it has diminished. "There's a difference between being confident and being spoiled," he said. In his time, veterans demanded humility. Now he feels many rookies demand recognition before proving themselves. The culture of instant gratification powered by social media and celebrity has replaced the long climb that once forged discipline and gratitude. Erving's message is neither bitter nor nostalgic. It's cautionary. He admires the athleticism and global impact of today's NBA, but fears it's losing its soul to comfort and ego. The game, he insists, should still be about perseverance, respect, and love for the craft. "We didn't play for attention," he once said. "We played because it was an honor to be out there." To Dr. J. True greatness isn't measured in luxury or likes, but in legacy. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba himself, never shied away from confrontation, not with opponents, not with teammates, and certainly not with change. Before his tragic passing, Bryant often voiced frustration over how the NBA had softened through rule modifications and shifting culture. The elimination of hand-checking in 2004, he believed, was the turning point. "It's much less physical," Kobe said. "It makes me nauseous." To him, basketball had devolved from a battle of wills into a showcase of finesse. What was once a gladiator's sport had turned into what he called small ball theater, entertaining but hollow. During his prime, Kobe thrived in chaos. He relished contact, welcomed defensive pressure, and built his legacy by mastering adversity. The new rules, designed to promote scoring and protect offensive players, stripped away that test of toughness. "You can't touch a guy now," he said, shaking his head at how easily defenders are penalized. In his view, the absence of hand-checking didn't just change defense, it altered the psychology of competition. Guards no longer had to earn space. It was given to them. Offense became easier, less creative, and more predictable. Kobe, who built his game on counter moves and physical precision, saw that as a betrayal of basketball's essence. He often reminisced about the defensive duels that sharpened him, facing Gary Payton, Ron Artest, or Bruce Bowen, who pushed, grabbed, and tested his limits every night. Those matchups, he argued, forged greatness. The modern game, with its spacing and three-point explosions, lacked those emotional collisions. "It's all skill and no struggle," he once said, lamenting how the league's efforts to increase scoring came at the expense of grit. Kobe believed true artistry came from tension, from players being forced to outthink and outfight one another, not just outshoot them. For Bryant, basketball's beauty lived in balance, the elegance of offense clashing with the brutality of defense. Watching the sport evolve into a non-contact contest felt to him like watching a lion declawed. Though he respected innovation and admired stars like Stephen Curry and LeBron James, he refused to romanticize the softer reality of the post-hand check era. His legacy remains a reminder of what's missing: intensity, resilience, and respect for confrontation. "You don't appreciate greatness," Kobe once said, "until you've had to bleed for it." Gary Payton. Gary Payton, the legendary glove who built his career locking down the league's greatest scorers, has made no secret of his disappointment with the modern NBA. To him, defense, once the heartbeat of the game, has been erased in favor of showtime offense and viral highlights. "It's just run and gun now," Payton said bluntly. "Nobody takes pride in stopping anyone." In his era, the goal was simple: make your opponent miserable. Every possession was a psychological and physical battle. But today's game, he believes, rewards only one thing: scoring. Fans cheer for 130-point shootouts, not 85 to 82 wars of attrition, and in that cultural shift, the defensive soul of basketball has vanished. Payton, a 9-time All-Defensive Team selection and the 1996 Defensive Player of the Year, remembers when defensive specialists were feared, not forgotten. Back then, shutting down a superstar earned respect, equal to hitting a game winner. Now he laments defense barely makes the highlight reel. "Fans don't care about lockdowns anymore," he said. "They just want to see buckets." The league's emphasis on offense, boosted by rule changes, three-point revolutions, and softer officiating, has made defense not only harder, but nearly impossible. In Payton's eyes, the NBA's shift from confrontation to comfort has turned defenders into an endangered species. One of his biggest frustrations is the prevalence of touch fouls. The slightest contact now sends players to the free throw line, breaking rhythm and discouraging intensity. "You can't even bump a guy without hearing the whistle," Payton complained. During his prime, hand-checking, body leverage, and positioning were tools of survival. Now they're violations. The result, he argues, is a watered-down product, a league that looks fast and flashy, but lacks the mental warfare that made basketball truly competitive. "That's not basketball," he said. "That's practice with uniforms." For Payton, defense was never just effort, it was identity. He sees today's stars as incredible athletes, but not complete players. True greatness, he insists, means dominating both ends of the floor, forcing turnovers, talking trash, and breaking an opponent's rhythm through sheer willpower. When we played, he said, defense was about pride. His message is a challenge to the new generation. Stop chasing highlight reels and start guarding someone. Because in Gary Payton's world, offense might win cheers, but defense wins respect. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the NBA's all-time scoring king for nearly 4 decades, stands as the ultimate symbol of post-dominance. Yet when he watches the modern game, the Hall of Famer feels more disappointment than pride. To him, the role of the traditional big man has all but disappeared. The skyhook remains effective, but no one learns it, Kareem lamented. The signature move that brought him 6 championships and 387 points has been abandoned by a generation more fascinated with perimeter shooting than interior mastery. In his eyes, today's centers have drifted too far from the fundamentals that once made the position the heart of basketball. During Kareem's era, big men were the foundation of every system. The paint was sacred ground, a war zone where dominance was earned through contact, precision, and control. Names like Wilt Chamberlain, Hakeem Olajuwon, and Moses Malone defined greatness by what they did under the rim. But now, he observes, even 7-footers are launching threes. So many players now are entertainers as much as basketball players, he said. While the modern game celebrates versatility, Abdul-Jabbar believes it's come at a cost, the slow erasure of the craft he perfected. To him, stretching the floor shouldn't mean abandoning the post, it should mean expanding upon it. Kareem's frustration isn't nostalgia, it's realism. He recognizes that analytics-driven basketball has prioritized efficiency and spacing, but he insists that the post-up remains one of the most unstoppable tools when executed with skill. The whole idea of working your way down into the paint and setting up with your back to the basket doesn't appeal to them, he explained. The physical grind, the footwork, the patience, these elements don't fit the highlight culture of modern sports. Instead of learning timeless techniques, young players focus on shooting range and dribble packages. For Kareem, that shift represents not evolution, but evasion. He often reminds young athletes that greatness requires more than flash. It demands depth. The skyhook wasn't just a move. It was a philosophy built on repetition, geometry, and grace. Its disappearance, he fears, mirrors a larger problem, the loss of substance beneath the spectacle. If someone brought it back, he once said they'd dominate. His message to the new generation is clear. Innovation should honor tradition, not erase it. Because for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the game's true beauty still lies where it began, inside the paint. Tim Duncan. The silent cornerstone of 5 San Antonio Spurs championships, was never known for outbursts. But when it comes to today's NBA officiating, he has strong opinions. The man nicknamed the Big Fundamental believes the modern game has tilted unfairly toward perimeter players. "I hate how the game's being officiated," he admitted. "You're allowed to beat up a post player, but if a shooter falls down, the whistle blows." For Duncan, who built his career on precision footwork and quiet dominance in the paint, this bias has not only devalued the art of post play, but also distorted the essence of basketball. In Duncan's eyes, referees have become overly protective of guards and wings, rewarding even minimal contact beyond the arc, while ignoring the physical abuse endured by big men inside. The evolution of freedom of movement rules intended to encourage offense has instead made interior scoring an endangered skill. "You can hit a center 3 times under the rim and get nothing," Duncan said. "But flop at the three-point line and you're on the free throw line." That imbalance frustrates him deeply. For decades, the league celebrated giants who fought for every inch near the basket. Now he sees that legacy fading under a barrage of whistles and highlight reel threes. Beyond officiating, Duncan also blames the NBA's entertainment-first approach for eroding the game's strategy. He argues that the league's push for faster pace and higher scores has transformed basketball into a spectacle rather than a competition. The NBA wants 130-point games, he said. They don't want the 88-85 battles we used to have. Those grinded-out contests filled with defensive adjustments and tactical execution tested intelligence as much as skill. Today's product, though exciting, often feels superficial, a rhythm of fast breaks and threes with little room for nuance. For a cerebral player like Duncan, that loss of depth cuts deep. Yet his critique isn't bitterness, it's principle. Duncan believes basketball should celebrate balance, the beauty of the post-game alongside perimeter artistry, the tension between strength and skill. To him, officiating should protect fairness, not popularity. "We played through contact," he reflected. "Now it feels like contact's a crime." His words echo the frustration of many purists who miss the chess match beneath the chaos. The NBA may have gained spectacle, but in Duncan's view, it's come at the cost of substance. Oscar Robertson, famously known as the Big O, was a pioneer who fought for players' rights long before the NBA became a global empire. Yet despite being one of the main reasons athletes today earn generational wealth, Robertson has grown concerned about how that privilege is being handled. "If you're making $50 million a year, there's no load management." He declared, a sharp reminder that enormous salaries come with responsibility. During his playing days, the average NBA paycheck was barely $35,000, forcing athletes to take off-season jobs to survive. Today, that number exceeds $9.5 million annually, with top stars crossing $50 million, but to Robertson, more money should mean more commitment, not less. He's quick to clarify that he isn't bitter. Robertson, who averaged a triple-double in 1962 and revolutionized the players' union, is proud that modern athletes can enjoy the financial freedom he never had. What troubles him is the growing detachment between players and fans, a widening gap fueled by luxury and entitlement. "I'm happy for them," he said, "but if people are paying hundreds of dollars to watch you play, you owe them your effort." For him, the NBA is more than entertainment. It's a covenant built on respect. When players skip games for rest or personal preference, he believes they're breaking that trust. Robertson's criticism isn't about nostalgia, it's about accountability. He reminds younger generations that the NBA didn't start as a billion-dollar spectacle. It was built by men who fought for recognition, flew commercial flights, and played through exhaustion just to keep the league alive. To him, being paid at historic levels should mean embracing the responsibility that comes with being the face of the sport. Fans don't care about your schedule, he once said. They care that you show up. Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas, once one of the NBA's most fearless scorers, has become a sharp commentator unafraid to speak uncomfortable truths about how the league has evolved. To him, the modern NBA has lost its physical identity, and the reason, he says, lies overseas. The NBA took away aggression to open it up for Euro players, Arenas declared. In his view, the league's effort to globalize the game has unintentionally softened it, favoring finesse over force. The aggressive confrontational style that once defined American basketball has been replaced by what he calls a Euro style of constant passing perimeter spacing and an over-reliance on three-point shooting. Arenas remembers when driving to the rim meant absorbing hits and giving them back when toughness was a badge, not a foul. Today, he argues referees whistle for even mild contact, discouraging defenders from challenging shooters. They softened the rules, he said, not for Americans, but to make the international guys feel comfortable. The results are visible: a generation of players who thrive on jump shots instead of body battles. For Arenas, this transformation has made the NBA more global, but less gritty. Games that once featured bruising matchups between enforcers now resemble fast-paced exhibitions with minimal confrontation. He doesn't deny that European influence has elevated certain aspects of the game. Ball movement spacing and skill development have reached unprecedented levels. Still, Arenas insists that balance has been lost. The league's prioritization of scoring has stripped away intimidation, a core element that once defined the NBA's identity. "This is not our league anymore," he said on his show, Gil's Arena. "It's Euro-style basketball, drive and suck the defense in and kick to the three-point line." While the formula works, he believes it's formulaic, robotic basketball designed for numbers, not emotion. Arenas' critique comes from a place of pride, not bitterness. He sees the international rise as impressive, but he misses the days when aggression and artistry coexisted. For him, basketball's greatness came from diversity, different cultures, different play styles, and different strengths competing without compromise. The league didn't need to get soft to get skilled, he said. His call is simple: restore balance, let players play with contact again, and bring back the edge that made the NBA legendary. Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins. The human highlight film built his legacy through respect both earned and given. But as he watches the modern NBA unfold, Wilkins feels a growing disconnect between today's stars and the legends who paved their way. "We respected those before us," he said. "We had to learn from somebody." For him, that humility was sacred. Each generation honored the one before it, understanding that progress was built on foundation, not arrogance. What troubles Wilkins now is how often young players dismiss their predecessors, belittling the very figures who made their success possible. "They try to eshkaiti on us to prove their point," he said bluntly, a reflection of how competitive pride has morphed into disrespect. In Wilkins' era, the path to stardom was defined by reverence and rivalry. He battled titans like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan, yet never claimed superiority over the pioneers who inspired him. "I'll never say I'm better than Wilt or Russell," he declared, reaffirming his belief that greatness transcends eras. Those words carry more than modesty, they carry gratitude. The Atlanta Hawks icon knows the NBA's foundation was laid by men who fought for recognition when the league wasn't glamorous, who endured racial barriers and economic struggles to create opportunities for future generations. To disregard them, Wilkins argues, is to disrespect the game itself. The modern culture of self-promotion fueled by social media and endless comparison has only deepened that divide. Everybody wants to be the greatest, Wilkins noted, but nobody wants to give credit. He sees players chasing headlines instead of heritage measuring success by followers rather than influence. The debates, LeBron versus Jordan, modern versus classic, often ignore the truth that each era contributes something unique. For Wilkins, the obsession with proving dominance overshadows what basketball once stood for: continuity, mentorship, and shared legacy. Yet his message isn't one of resentment, it's a plea for balance. Wilkins admires today's athletes for their skill, athleticism, and global reach, but he urges them to remember who cleared the path. Respect, he insists, isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You don't have to tear down legends to build yourself up, he said. The true measure of greatness isn't rewriting history, it's carrying it forward with pride. The voices of NBA legends remind us that the game we love has changed, maybe for better, maybe for worse. From physical toughness to rivalries, from mid-range artistry to respect for the greats, they believe something powerful has slipped away in today's highlight-driven league. Yet fans continue to celebrate dazzling skill, global influence, and scoring explosions at historic levels. So, what is the truth? Has modern basketball evolved into a smarter, more exciting product? Or has it lost the soul that once made it unforgettable?